Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jed Lee. This is Reading with Your Kids. We're beaming out to you and the entire world from the beautiful, lovely, historical, and book-loving neighborhood of Reedville, the loveliest neighborhood in all of Boston. We are so very happy and absolutely honored that you're joining us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. We do that by sharing fun, thoughtful, and thought-provoking conversations with fascinating people who just happen to be writing books for kids of all ages. You can join us in that mission by telling all of your family and friends about the show and letting them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network. And they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, Amazon Music, CastBox, Player FM, Audible, YouTube. Wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. Really wonderful show lined up for you today. First up, Torrey Maldonado is here to celebrate his new picture book, Just Right. And later in the show, Dana Smith will join us to celebrate Zingwin. Hey, this episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by the books by Dr. Peter Cotton. In particular, When Fred the Snake Goes to School. What happens when your best friend is a snake and he wants to go to school with you? After a happy summer full of fun and friendship, Fred the Snake decides he's ready for his next big adventure, school. But when Fred slithers into the classroom, students, well, they're not so sure. A snake in school? And when Fred the Snake goes to school, kids discover what happens when we give someone new a chance. Fred may look a little bit different, but he quickly wins everyone over by being kind, playful, and surprisingly helpful. He twists himself into a jump rope, he curls up into a soccer goal, and before long, the class realizes something very important. Sometimes the friend you're unsure about becomes the one you can't imagine school without. This award-winning book received the Mom's Gold Award in glowing 5-star reviews from readers' favorite and Goodreads, calling it an enjoyable story to read aloud at home or in the classroom. Written by Dr. Peter Cotton, who we loved having on Reading with Your Kids, this is the second book in the delightful Fred the Snake series. It's a joyful reminder that kindness builds trust, differences can be strengths, and school is always better when somebody feels welcome. Join us right now from Brooklyn, where all the cool kids live. Our guest is here today to celebrate his debut picture book. Please welcome to the show the author of Just Right, Torrey Maldonado. Torrey, how are you?
I am fantastic, and you said that I'm in Brooklyn with the cool kids, and I'm a penguin author, so right now I picture me as a penguin waddling through the very cool, cold temperatures of Brooklyn.
And, you know, that's the thing. One of the things you learn in the city up here in the north is you got to learn how to walk like a penguin so you don't slip and fall on the ice.
Remember the old school song, "Walk Like an Egyptian"?
Yep.
I think you and I could make a new song, "Walk Like a Penguin."
Like a penguin. So you're the author of a number of award-winning middle grade novels, but this is your first picture book. Tell us all about Just Right, please.
Just Right is a book about how you could make the world just right by getting it just right with the person just right in front of you. A lot of adults overcomplicate it and think that we have to do a lot in the lives of a young person to flip their mood from down to up. And really, the book captures how you can do things in the just right moment, just right at any given moment, to take a young person and flip their mood from down to up.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. You know, you and I were just talking, sharing a little something about my niece. When she came into our lives about 10 years ago, we just hit it off, not immediately, but we became very, very close friends very quickly. And it was just through a number of silly things and me taking time to pay attention to her.
Mm-hmm. You and I are similar in that way. Recently, I was in Philadelphia at the African American Children's Book Festival. And it happens every year. It has some of the biggest and best names and people in children's literature. And I was there on the headliner, and someone read the book and then runs over and says, "You're the uncle, aren't you? You're the uncle in the book." And that person figured me out. I'm 100% the uncle. You said, your niece came into your life. And when you said it, it hit my ear in such a heartwarming way, because that's how I describe my niece. When she came into my life, she was a gift, and I helped to raise her as my own daughter. And if you fast forward time, she becomes a successful nurse. She's managing a whole nursing team, and she asked me to come into the bedroom with her. And she said, "Come in the bedroom. My fiance and I want to talk to you." So, okay, let's go. And then next thing you know, my mom comes in. And then the next thing my wife comes in. And then the next thing somebody else comes in. And then if so many people were in there, I was wondering, what is going on? Is this an intervention? And that's when my niece tells me, "Uncle, you have been like a dad to me, the only dad I've ever known. And for that reason, I want you to walk me down the aisle." And so everything that I tried to do as an uncle to her, it really shows up inside this book, what the uncle does for Toby.
That's really beautiful. I love that. And just as I guess I hit you before we hit record and was singing to you about the snow on the beach, you're singing to me about my relationship with, one of the things, and I never understood, and I can't understand it at all now. So many people I've heard over the years saying, "Oh, I could never be a foster dad. I could never be an adopted dad because it's not my blood, and I can't. How could I love it as if it was someone that I gave birth to or I helped create?" And I think you and I both experienced that that's not true at all. You can find love wherever you want to make the effort to find it.
Absolutely. Nina Simone said in the 1960s, "Learn to leave the table when love is not being served." And on the yang of that is love is being served somewhere, and you can get love. One of the beautiful things of adulthood is we realize that you can choose your family, but we have to ask ourselves, what does great family do? Great family does everything that your best friend, your bestest friend would do. And I was invited by Cheryl Willis Hudson and Wade Hudson to be a part of an anthology called The Talk, conversations about love and race and other things. And I wrote a letter to my daughter, and in that letter, I break down the acronym of FRIENDS. FRIENDS, F, fight for you. The R, respect you. I love doing this acronym breakdown in front of large student audiences because we do this call and response. And then by the time we get to I, all the kids are standing and, they want to share what the I is. They want to share what the E is. Basically, what the acronym breakdown is inside this book. You see what mom does with Toby. You see what the uncle does with Toby. So read the book and infer. Try to guess. What is happening that makes Toby feel that love is being served. I want to circle back to something that you said because it's really, really important. You had said, some people say, "Oh, I can't adopt. I can't love someone who's not my blood." My mom, she told everybody who would listen to her, and anybody who wouldn't listen to her, she'd tell them that Ofri needed to know about my books. And she kept saying Ofri. And a lot of people here who are tuning in probably have a relative who mispronounces words. Mm-hmm. The Ofri she was talking about was Oprah. And on my first book, Oprah didn't come knocking. Or the second book, Oprah didn't come knocking. But on the third book, Oprah Winfrey picked my book, What Lane, as one of her favorite books. And on the very first page, a character says the idea that you just shared. Character says, "Blood is thicker than water." And the reason why I bring that up in that book And the reason why I bring it up in all of my books is because the characters discover that love is stronger than hate. And that love can come from someone who's related to you, and love can come from somebody who's not related to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That must have been quite a thrill when Oprah picked your book.
Yes, absolutely. It was a huge thrill, because now I have friends in the Kid Lit community who joke with me, and they tell me I'm not big time for certain reasons. One of my big brothers, Jerry Kraft, he's cracked the joke. I've had some other brothers crack the joke. I had some sisters crack the joke too. They say you're not big time until, and one of the jokes is I'm not big time until I get invited to a Florida book festival. Well, I can say that this year I got invited to a Florida book festival. Woo!
Awesome.
Unfortunately, I can't go, wonk wonk, because I have a previously scheduled commitment. But another thing that they say is, you're not big time until Oprah mentions you. So now I can use that as a I can say, yes, I am big time.
Am I right in thinking I was invited to the Hudson County book festival last year and again coming up this year? Am I right in that you're going to be part of that, or I'm seeing things from them?
So what people tuning in don't know is that before you hit record, you and I were singing songs to each other, and one of the things I told you was that you were Roberta Flacking me. You were, singing my joy with your words, and right now you're doing it again because I am going to be at the Hudson Children's Book Festival this May, and I've been there probably every year for a bunch of years now, and if anybody has never been there, I'm telling you, it is one of the top 5, top 3, top 2, it's one of the top book fairs in the nation. And it is a complete celebration of reading, writing, and the joys and the ups and downs of human transformation.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we must have missed each other last year, but we won't miss each other this year unless you run away and hide from me. But I'll be looking.
Look for this bobblehead, this bald bobblehead.
Yeah, but we're alike here. Tell me, what was the biggest challenge going from telling a story in thousands of words and then needing to tell the story in under 600 or 500 words?
One of the challenges is doing what my mom taught me. My mom taught me when it comes to writing, you need to know how to kiss. When it comes to storytelling, you need to know how to kiss. And I was invited by Meg Medina, the former National Ambassador for Children's Literature, to go to the Library of Congress because of my book, Tight. And one of the things she said while she was interviewing me is she complimented my writing. She said, your writing is tight. You tell these full stories in under 150 pages. You tell so much in just a paragraph, and that paragraph can be the whole chapter. And Betsy Bird from the School Library Journal, she had she's done reviews of every one of my novels, and one of the novels, I remember her saying that my novels are safe spaces for young readers, that my novels never seek to intimidate a young reader, and those were the challenges of writing a picture book. I didn't want to write anything that was too heavy. I wanted to write something that left readers feeling joyful and hopeful and excited and wanting to read it again. I joke around and I say that I write roller coaster fiction because if you like roller coasters and you get on an amazing roller coaster, once you get off that roller coaster, you want to get back on. And so it's been a joy to hear young readers of my novels say, oh, I've read your book 4, 5, 6 times. Just like it was a joy to just recently, I was interviewed by an elementary school girl. It's on Instagram. You can check out the Instagram live. Naval Karuni is her mom. And the girl, the first thing that she says after I asked, did you like Just Right? She says, I want another. And that means I did it. I wrote roller coaster fiction with Just Right. Something short. I kept the KISS. I kept it short and spectacular. I kept it short and scintillating. I kept it short and swaggy. I kept it short and all the things that young readers love.
Awesome. Awesome. Tell me, was it difficult for you to leave room for the illustrator to tell some of the story?
You know, I come from a home where we might have control issues. We wanted to, we're like, wait, that's not how we said it. We want to make sure we get the story said a certain way. And so it was a process of letting go and trying not to control the process. When it came to the illustrations, I didn't get to see the illustrations. So they're right there. I had to check my ego and say, okay. And so here's the process. The process is, my story is handed over to the illustrator who we decide is going to illustrate the book. And then that person just gets creative and imagines a world. And when I did get the sketches, I have to say I was so pleased with the world that Teresa Martinez imagined, because it was a perfect sync in many ways with my reality and the reality that I poured into Just Right.
That's great. Yeah, I was really surprised when I started this podcast 9 years ago now. I was blown away when I learned that there's very little communication, if any at all, between author and illustrator in creating a picture book. And in fact, we've had a number of times when we've had both author and illustrator on the show, and it was the first time they were meeting each other and communicating with each other.
Wow.
Yeah.
You made the magic happen. You brought them together.
And the first time it happened, it really surprised me, a little worried me, because the author was an older woman and the illustrator was a young guy, and they came together, and I look up and I noticed that the author is weeping. And I'm like, oh my goodness, are you okay? And she said, yes, I'm just so happy. And she was so delighted. And I'm like, well, great. This is a nice moment here.
Well, I have to tell you that I'm glad that you didn't get Teresa Martinez and myself on at the same time, because there are pages inside the book that are so beautifully illustrated and hit like Cupid's arrow into my heart that I probably would have been weeping too. And so I had some time now to prepare myself.
Tell me, what was your niece's reaction when she first saw Just Right?
Before she saw the book, School Library Journal did an interview with me, and they asked me questions about the book, and they read the book, and Betsy Bird had called the book groundbreaking. She said she's never read a picture book quite like Just Right, and she named a bunch of reasons, but one reason that comes to mind is she said the dad in the book, he absolutely exists. He's given a gift by Toby, and the dad's just checked out. He just says, oh, socks, and goes back to his cell phone. And my niece, when that article came out, I sent that to my niece, and my niece immediately got excited. And she said, oh my goodness, Uncle, I can't wait to actually see the book, because the way you described Uncle in the interview, that's you. And I want the world to know more about you. And I told her, Toby in the book in many ways is you. And I want the world to know about her. Toby is this wide-eyed kid who just loves, and he has a strong sense of what's right and what doesn't feel right. And I believe all kids have that inner spider sense. This is one of the reasons why Spider-Man and Spider People and the Spider Family is so popular. We all have this inner GPS, this inner genie that we know what's right and what's not right. We know our just right people. We know our just right places. And I really want to encourage young people to trust that spidey sense. And that's one of the things I did with her when she was coming up. I just really got her to trust her own instincts and her own gut and her heart. And so when the book finally comes out, she saw the book and she was just like, I got to tell everybody about this book, because she's in love with the story of it too. She has two young girls, and it's very important that her young girls figure out how to find their just right people and find their just right places. And so she feels that it's a valuable book for that too.
Beautiful, beautiful. One of the things I read on your website is that you've been a teacher in New York City for 25 years. My beautiful wife taught in Boston for 34 years, so I kind of have a feeling of how difficult that day job is.
Yeah, yeah. You know, whenever I do an author visit, I get the same reactions from young people that I get on the first days of school. As soon as my students walk in, as soon as young people in the author visits walk in, they see me, they say, "Has anybody told you you look like The Rock?" Because of my complexion, because of my bald head, because of some of my features. And I have to say that if I look like The Rock now, I started teaching when I was a pebble because I've been teaching for close to 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's a tough day job. Oftentimes people ask me, how do you do it? How do you find time to write? And I ask them, have you seen Shawshank Redemption? And they say, yeah. And I said, well, how did Tim Robbins get out of jail? And they said, by taking a spoon and just spooning his way through a tunnel until he got to the other side. And I said, that's how I write. Because of the intense demands of my teaching schedule, whenever I can just take a spoonful, of ideas and sweeten it onto the page. I just do it spoonful by spoonful, and then finally I got something sweet to share with the world.
Now, do you ever find yourself in the middle of a class and thinking, there's an idea I've been working and I got to put it down, guys. Be cool. Let me write this down.
Yeah. So I'm going to share something with you. Do I have the book with me? No, I don't have the book right next to me. But if I had, Hands is, my most recent novel. It won the Global Read Aloud Award. It's a mix of Spider-Verse movies meets Star Wars meets The Karate Kid. And if you could put it all into one, it would be a very short, novel that, gets kids questioning, am I being a Jedi or am I being a Sith? Am I being Luke Skywalker or Princess Leia, or am I being a Kylo Ren or a Darth Vader? And what's more powerful, my body and might, or my heart and shining a light? That's raised in Hands. So I'm going to circle back to your question. I got so excited about Star Wars that Star Wars takes me to a galaxy far, far away. Go back to that first question.
I was asking, do you ever come in the middle of a class, you're working on something at home, spooning up, and then all of a sudden it comes to you?
Yes. The reason why I mentioned Hands is because years ago I heard, it was just the way I was hearing it, the 6-7, and I kept hearing it, and it inspired me to try something big out. I wanted to write Hands in 67 chapters, and I did it. Okay. So there's a lot of times where young people will flip to the end and they go, wait, 6-7? And I'll go, yeah, 6-7. By the way, if anybody doesn't know what 6-7 is, or you want to learn more about 6-7, you could type my first name and my last name and type SLJ and then type 6-7. Because I wrote an article for the School Library Journal about 6-7 and why it matters and why youth speak matters in making fiction even more fire.
All right. Awesome. We'll have to definitely check that out because I am so old. I don't know what that 6-7 stuff is. I love one of the things I love to do is to ask authors what kind of conversations they think families can have as they're curled up on the couch reading just right together.
Excellent. So when they say, you know better, you do better, and that quote comes from Maya Angelou, when you know better, you do better. So I know some people who know better on how to use just right. So I'm going to do better, and I'm going to head nod to them. Naval Karuni, she's an educator who works with schools across the nation. And she really warmed my heart because her and Penguin released a 1-minute video. And if anybody wants to hear her describe it, how she uses just right in even better terms. Watch that 1-minute video on Penguin Classroom. But basically she said her and her daughter and her children, they had these rich conversations about how it takes a village to raise a child, how it's okay for you to have really strong familial bonds with someone who maybe isn't your mom or your dad, right? Maybe it's your uncle, like Toby's uncle, who you have a really amazing bond with, and that person nourishes you. Maybe it's your cousin, maybe, or maybe it's like when I was coming up, I had so many uncles and aunts on different corners of the housing projects that I grew up in that I started to question whether they were really related to me. And then I find out they're not blood related to me. These are just people who took me under their wing until my wings became strong enough for me to fly to the heights that they had hoped that I'd fly to. So, that's some of the stuff you could talk about. Another thing that I think parents could talk about with Just Right is, going back to Naval Karuni, the girl, her daughter said, the main point of Just Right isn't that gifts that you give someone matters. What matters most is what Uncle tells Toby. Toby happily gives Uncle socks. Uncle is ecstatic about the socks. Toby tells Uncle, you don't even know if they fit yet. How could you be excited? And Uncle tells Toby, it's not about the socks. The socks are extra. You're the gift. Mm-hmm. And the book is a real good ground to have conversations about how it's more important to cherish people over things. Mm-hmm. It's more important to cherish people's feelings over objects. So those are just a few things that you can talk about.
Yeah. I'm just real curious. You do school visits, you're a teacher. What's the, and I did educational magic shows for over 40 years, and the questions that you get at the end of a presentation are always fun and interesting. What's the question or the statement, because there's so many statements instead of questions, that really either really surprised you or struck you as being from somebody wise beyond their years?
Oh, wow. I'm so impressed by so many young people that I meet, and I've been impressed by so many others who I've met throughout my time as a published novelist and now as a picture book author. I have to say, I've been stopped cold in my tracks a few times, and I'll never forget the one time where I was at the Hudson Children's Book Festival, and I met a young group in a classroom, and there was one young blonde girl. She was raising her hand, and she was so inquisitive and asking about the characters in my books, and it didn't even seem like she could sit in her seat. She was on her tiptoes, and she was so engaged. And then the young people start to leave, and the adult comes up to me and says, you don't realize what your writing did to her. And I said, why? The adult said, that girl is selectively mute. When she first came to the school, all of the staff questioned whether or not she was being oppositional and refusing to talk to them. And then what they discovered is she was selectively mute. And so she was so withdrawn and within her own shell that she hardly ever came out. And the adult told me, that young girl, your writing, it ignited her. And that's what really stops me in my tracks. In other ways, I've had high school students who told me, I've never read a whole book until I read your book. That means that young person is ignited in a way that they haven't been ignited before. I've had that come up in another form where I remember someone came up to me with a copy of Type and then said, is this your life? then this was after, after the Q&A, the boy says, "Is this your life?" And I said, "Yeah, it's largely autobiographical. But it's also inspired by you and young people today." And he said, "If I started writing my own book, could you help me write it?" And I said, "Oh, wow. Well, you love to write?" And he said, "Actually, I don't love to write." I was, "Oh, but you like books?" And he says, "No, I'm allergic to books." Here's a young person who's ignited to tell their own story. And that's the reason I write. I have 3 more picture books that are about to come out. I have my 4 novels. But whatever I create, it shares the same mission with why I teach. A lot of people think it's about them as the writer. It's not about me as a writer. It's not about me as a teacher. It's about me as a spark for change. I want young people to take up the mantle of storytelling in different media and tell their stories. Hamilton, who lives, who dies, who tells your story, right? I don't want these young people to not tell their stories, because their stories matter and their voices matter.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, you answered the last question I was going to ask you, which is, are there more picture books coming from the imagination of Torrey Maldonado? And you said yes. 3 or 4?
Well, so this is what happens. You know how you pray for rain and then you get the flood?
Yeah.
So I was working on a novel, and as I was working on a novel, the snow started to fall. And you and I, we were talking about snow and how it can quiet the whole world and ourselves. And there was something about these huge snowflakes and how they were coming down that quieted the world, and it quieted something in me. And as the snow fell, the ideas for Just Right started to fall onto the page. And I wrote Just Right. But I would have been happy with just 1 picture book coming out. But what flowed out was the ideas for 3 books. And so Just Right, it came out on January 20th. It's hot out the oven. I have another book coming out called Little Artist, with the amazing New York Times bestselling illustrator Reggie Brown. And then after that, I feel like calling it eye candy and ear candy, because it is this amazing set of illustrations done by B. Jackson. And that book that is called Uncle. So I have those picture books. I have Just Right, then Little Artist, and then Uncle.
Well, you have an open invitation to come back and celebrate those books when they're out there. In the meantime, let's tell everybody where they can go to find out more about Just Right, your novels, and find out more about you.
Awesome. I'm on social media at Torrey Maldonado. Torrey is spelled Torrey, and the last name is Maldonado, Maldonado. So you can find me on socials. You can find me also at my website, and more information about me there. And it's torreymaldonado.com. You can pick up my books wherever books are sold. If you are listening and you're like, "Oh, I like how he speaks. I like his voice." Well, I've narrated Just Right, and I also narrated the audiobooks for Tight, What Lane, and Hands. So if you have, it's funny because there's a bunch of teachers who have gotten in touch with me through the years, and they've said, reading the slang of Brooklyn kids, it just isn't me. And then I discovered that you have an audiobook, and I press play, and it's the sigh of relief, not only on the teacher's part, but on the kids' part, because the kids are like, "Okay, cool. Now we're hearing it the way it sounds."
We've had a great time speaking to the author of Just Right. It is the debut picture book from our guest, Torrey Maldonado. Torrey, thanks so much for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you for having me here, and thanks for bringing the heat. It's a nice contrast to the blizzardy cold in Brooklyn.
Amen. Hey, my friends, one of my favorite parts of the day is story time. There's just something magical about snuggling up with your kids, opening a great book, and escaping into an adventure together. And let me tell you, that moment becomes even more magical when you're curled up in the softest, coziest bedding you've ever felt. That's why I'm so excited that CozyEarth.com is supporting Reading with Your Kids. Their bamboo sheets, comforters, and pajamas are unbelievably soft, naturally breathable, and temperature regulating, which means no more sweaty nights or chilly toes. Right now, Cozy Earth is offering Reading with Your Kids listeners an unbelievable and exclusive 41% off their entire site. That's right, you heard me right, 41% off. So go ahead, create your own cozy reading nook, wrap yourself and your kids up in something comfy, grab your favorite bedtime book, and turn story time into the best part of your day. Head on over to CozyEarth.com and use the promo code READ at checkout to save 41%. That's CozyEarth.com, promo code READ. Hey, my friends, I have a super idea you are going to love. How about this weekend, turn your backyard cookout into a storybook celebration? Fire up the grill, crack open a few of your favorite picture books, and serve up Big Fork Brand's legendary bacon sausage. Made with nitrate-free bacon and premium pork, it's juicy, smoky, and unforgettable. Top it off with Big Fork's spicy Chicago fire sauce, and you've got a meal as bold as the characters in your favorite bedtime tale. Get 20% off your order using the promo code READ at bigforkbrands.com. That's bigforkbrands.com. Promo code READ to get 20% off, because nothing brings families together like great food, great books, and a whole lot of flavor. Big Fork Brands. Read, grill, repeat. Join us from the great state of California. Our guest is here today to celebrate her new picture book. It's called Zinguin. Please welcome to the show, Dana Smith. Hey, Dana, how are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you for having me on your show today.
Delighted to have you on. Zinguin, it just came out just a couple of weeks ago, correct?
Correct. On January 6th, 2026, it came out. It's making a big splash.
Yay. And tell us about the story.
Zinguin is about a little penguin who lives in Antarctica who is a little overwhelmed in his noisy world with all the squawking and splashing and throwing of snowballs and all that stuff. And he just, he wants a little peace and quiet, but he doesn't know how to go about getting that. So he goes and asks some of his friends. And Well teaches him how to breathe. Seal teaches him techniques on how to move his body in yoga. And Gul teaches him a little bit about Zen gardening. And until Zen practices, and then when he gets the techniques down, he has an opportunity to pay it forward with his little sister. And he helps her in a stressful situation.
You know, I love the idea of teaching kids, giving kids different skills to cope with their emotions, helping them identify their emotions. I think it's so very important. But Zinguin, and we've talked to authors of other books that are teaching kids different breathing techniques, mindfulness techniques, yoga. Are kids 5, 6, 7 years old? Are they actually practicing yoga?
I think some are, but most of the time it's just recognizing how anxiety feels and why they're feeling it. Mm-hmm. And once they get a grasp on, oh, this is what the feeling is like, and this is okay, then they can try a few little breathing techniques, just doing whatever they happen to be doing, or they can count 1 to 10, just something to calm themselves down. Mm-hmm. But this book, it's a little bit different, where Zenwin goes around and learns from his friends, and it's very organically done. So it's not a lesson per se. It's just Zenwin learning how to deal with his emotions in his noisy mm-hmm. world.
Mm-hmm. You know, I never think of Antarctica being noisy, but it is noisy with all the wildlife that's down there. It can be pretty noisy.
Yes, really noisy, especially these little penguins. And his Zenguin's little sister Pip is extra noisy. So she's a little sweetheart, but a little annoying to him.
Yeah. What was the inspiration for this book?
Well, usually when I start writing a book, I like to play around with words. And so I was just playing with words, and the word sanguine waddled into my head, and I thought, this is a great opportunity to talk about the emotion of anxiety, which I have, and I don't know, I kind of feel like I wrote the book for the little girl that I was back then trying to deal with my anxiety. I didn't know any coping skills. I just kind of had to wing it. And this way, we can provide techniques for kids and in a fun environment, and also a friendly environment. Because Sanguine has lots of friends he just loves.
Yeah. We talk about kids having more and more kids having anxiety these days. As someone, you should just share with us that you dealt with anxiety as a little kid. Were you aware that you had this thing called anxiety, or did you think that everybody felt anxious and felt like this?
I didn't know, and that would have been wonderful to understand that it's a normal feeling that everybody has, and it's what we do about it that matters. I felt like I was, my mom was always telling me, control your temper. So, I had a little bit of a temper. I panicked a little bit, and that's all she said. So it's like, okay, I'm going to try to control myself, and I taught myself to calm down, and I grew up. As I grew up, I learned, I was introduced to yoga, and that really helped. And so, all these things that are nice for the kids to, it's a toolbox,
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. I remember my son dealing with emotions. One of the things that really kind of opened up my eyes is for my son when he was younger, any emotion that felt uncomfortable got turned into anger. And when I finally noticed that and then sat down with him and talked to him about it, that's when he was able to start making a change and start understanding that, no, I'm not really angry today. I'm disappointed.
Right.
Or I'm hurt, or I feel left out, or whatever. And, it made a huge difference in his life. And I imagine it would make the same kind of difference in most kids' lives.
Yeah, I think so. And this book is a great, way to introduce the topic and open a conversation with kids. And, I think it would really help kids.
Yeah.
And adults.
That's a good point. Yeah, I would imagine that an anxious mom, sitting down and reading this with her kids who may or may not be anxious could get a lot out of this.
Yeah, I think so. And the way that the illustrator, Sydney Hansen, illustrated the book, she used very calming colors, purples and greens and blues and creams. And then the way it's written in a lyrical voice, I think between the art and the story and the format, it really lends itself to a calming down. Yeah.
As you're writing in this lyrical style, are you constantly reading out loud to yourself to make sure that it has that meter and that pattern in rhythm?
I am. I'm always talking to myself. Sometimes my Google machine says, I don't understand what you're saying. Yes, I'm always talking to myself, and because I like to write lyrically, sometimes I'm a little wordy. So that's where the challenge came in with this book. Is a lot of words to me means clutter. It means anxiety. So it was important for me to have just the amount of words we needed to convey the message. And so I had to do a little bit of cutting and to get the calm feeling.
Yeah. Interesting. You were sharing with us that, you had anxiety as a kid, and now you're writing about it, and writing about it gives you anxiety.
It does. One day I called my editor and said, Sanguine is giving me anxiety. She said, why? Anyway, yes, it can sometimes do that, but it gives me practice, right? It gives me practice to learn my calming techniques and also, public speaking is another thing that gives me anxiety. So it's giving me practice and giving me ways to handle the situation, just like Franklin.
Well, I hope we're not causing you any anxiety here. It's just
no.
us. There's no one else listening. So
No, it's just us here having a little chat.
Yeah. Tell me, you write for this age group, this young age group. You also write for an older group. Is it easier for you to switch back and forth?
Yeah, actually, I write a lot of board books and picture books, but I have written for the older middle grade, mostly poetry books. And I did write an anxiety book for adults and teens, which is just like a little doodle book that they can take along with them to doodle. But I not really. It's not hard for me to go back and forth. I usually write a few stories at a time anyway. Okay. And if I get stuck on one situation in a particular manuscript, I'll just bounce to the other one and start writing on that, so I can constantly keep the flow of my words going and my creativity. So no, I'm used to bouncing back and forth.
Yeah. As I'm looking at your website and the various titles, it's obvious you love to write about animals and the seasons and whatnot. But what really caught my eye is your book, your little golden book. It's called "I Am a Drone." That's quite different than writing about a cute little penguin.
That is. That was a challenge I gave myself. I have several other little golden books about seasons, as you say, and animals, but I gave myself a challenge. I wanted to write a book about technology. And I did that with one of my other books called One Blue New, where he finds a cell phone at the zoo and he calls all his friends to plan a party. But I wanted to go beyond that. And there's a lot of technology in the world, and kids are right in, the thick of things. So it's like, let's try drones. And so I just started with that, and that book comes out in July of this year.
Oh, cool. Tell me, what is it about, what was the one message, most important message you wanted to get to kids about technology?
I don't know. I think just it's overwhelming sometimes for kids to just jump in. I think just giving them a base, a simple base to start with, talking about what drones are, for instance, and then what they can do to help the world and all the things that they can help. So just a basic introduction. Yeah.
It's funny. Technology is one of those things that kids pick up on so quickly. I remember a situation. My son is now an adult, but when he was 5, he really loved playing on the computer with video games and whatnot. And at the same time, we're trying to introduce it to my mom, who really helped us take care of the kids. And one day, my mom was having a very difficult time logging on or doing something, and my son was there, and he said, and he's 5. And he said, "Grammy, I can take care of this for you." And he went on and logged on and did everything. And my mom shut off the machine and told me to take it away. She was never going to work on it again.
Wow. Yeah. See, 5 years old, he was already into it. The kids are smart these days, and luckily Zenguin doesn't have any technology in Antarctica, and he's just enjoying nature.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you a big fan of penguins, or is it just a happy rhyming word?
I think I just started with that rhyming word, but I'm a big fan of animals. I grew up in a very unusual situation. I lived in rural Utah around a lot of different animals because my father was a animal rehabilitator and trainer and a falconer. So I tagged along. I was the lucky girl who got to tag along with them and learn about monkeys and bobcats and vultures and hawks. And so I love animals, anything to do with animals. So penguins, I have not had the opportunity to be around, but I did watch that show. What was that penguin show on Netflix? Oh, that was so good.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it.
I'm at a loss myself.
I know everybody's shouting the name of it, but yeah, it was great.
You mentioned that I Am a Drone is coming out in July. Any projects that you're working on that you can give us a sneak peek of?
Well, I'm working on one I just finished, and we're looking at the illustrations, actually two. One is called Snorkel Pig, and it's about a pig who is learning to swim with the help of his friends. And the other one is called Grow, Grow Little Baby, which I wrote with my friend, Linda Whalen. And that one is about, I guess, life before birth. So, yeah, so it's like a little sibling is watching mommy's belly grow and wondering what's inside. And so we take a look of each stage of the baby growing, and she gets to enjoy the I guess the pregnancy with her mom and dad. Yeah, so those are the two that are coming out soon. I think that Grow Grow Little Baby comes out in January of 2027. Snorkel Pig comes out this year.
Great. Well, we should tell everybody where they can go to find out more about Zingwen, Snorkel Pig, I Am a Drone, and all the other great books coming from your imagination.
Okay, thank you. It's DanaSmithBooks.com. You can find all my books there and read about them and watch trailers. And I also have a lot of activity guides that were designed to work with the books.
Awesome. We've had a great time speaking to the author of Zingwen. It is a new picture book from our guest, Dana Smith. Hey, Dana, thanks so much for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you for having me. Stay calm.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids. Will join us for the next exciting episode of the show. If this episode made you smile or gave you something to think about, please consider sharing a link to the show with someone you love, maybe someone in your chosen family. Write a 5-star review, and of course, we would love to have you subscribe to the show wherever you find your favorite shows. And we'd also love for you to connect with us on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram, at Jedley Magic on X, our YouTube channel, youtube.com/readingwithyourkids, and our website, it's readingwithyourkids.com. If you are the author of a great children's book, or if you know an author of a great children's book, please invite them to visit readingwithyourkids.com and ask them to click on the author's Click Here button up at the top of the page. When they do, they're going to learn how they can be a guest here on Reading with Your Kids. Being a guest is fun, it's easy, and it gives you the chance to tell thousands of people about your fantastic children's book. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our guest, Torrey Maldonado. Please be sure to check out Just Right. Also want to thank Dana Smith. Please be sure to check out Zingwen. I want to thank my team, Chris Doherty, Jackson Saltalaro. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the love and support she gives me. Most of all, we want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and thank you so much for taking the time to make the world a better, kinder, more empathetic place. And you do that every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.
Step inside and take a look. A magical world lives in every book. Turn a page, who knows what you'll find. A rocket ship or a trip through time. Wanna meet a pirate or a dinosaur? The library opens every door. Because the library imagination go. Every story lights a spark, a little flame inside your heart.